Hey everybody, this is Mark here at Gary's Guitars in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I'm here to talk about guitar modifying. It's a sticky subject sometimes, but especially when we talk about vintage guitars. Um, but it's something that comes up a lot here at the guitar store because we have a repair shop. We do modifications for people. Generally speaking, there are no rules, which bothers some people. So let's get into it. Modding, first of all, let's talk about the psychological part of modding. Modding a factory made guitar or creating a handmade guitar, um, it creates a very unique thing. And that gets us into a concept of psychological advantage. When you have something that other people don't have, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you have a one up on the world. I have a Telecaster that has a humbucker in the neck. I don't, but like if you're thinking, I have a Telecaster, and that way my Telecaster is more versatile. My Telecaster is better than your Telecaster. Therefore, it gets me somewhere. To have something unique that other people don't have creates a good feeling, and this is really what's behind modding in general. Because there's nothing wrong with a stock Stratocaster or Les Paul or P-Bass, and yet we just constantly want to mod our instruments. So the reasons given for modding is this doesn't sound quite like I want it to sound. So this idea of searching for a sound that's in your head, so to speak, or searching for an innovative sound that doesn't sound like anyone else, and therefore you want to put a humbucker in the neck position of your Stratocaster. And this is from an artistic point of view of I need to create a sound that doesn't exist and that the instruments that are out there can't make for me. Now there's so many instruments out there, you're likely to find an instrument that will make the sound that you want to sound. But once again, psychological, this idea of like I did this, I created something. I made my first Frankenstein guitar. My first electric guitar, was it my first? Second, was a Frankenstein guitar. I had a friend who sold me a body. That was in high school. And then I bought a neck from Gary at Gary's Guitars. But this was when he worked somewhere else, when he was quite a young lad at the time, and so was I. And he worked at another shop, and he sold me a used neck for $50 in 1986, and gave me a good pointer on how to put it on, because I never put a neck on a guitar. And he's like, well, you got to make sure that this distance and this distance is the same. And so I Frankenstein this thing together. It didn't fit right. I had to drill and screw and chisel, and I don't think I had a chisel. I had just like an old. It was a little gnarly what I'd done, but I created this guitar, and it was a good feeling. I wish I still had that guitar. Did it with my own hands, put it together. And so that's one part of modding, this need to create something that is unique, and that if you do it yourself, you get a feeling of accomplishment. Like when you fix your own car or mow your lawn, there is this little bit of feeling that comes over you. So the other side of modding is this, modding vintage instruments, which some people think is a no-no. My rule is it's your guitar, you can do whatever you want with it. However, it happens that I do get a little scared for the instrument sometimes when people want to do modifications to a vintage guitar. Today, people have more reverence for the vintage guitars. Or some people are like, hey, I want an old Telly, but it has to have a Bigsby. And at this, any Telly with a Bigsby from the 60s is a mod. And so, just if it has to be, or a Les Paul with a Bigsby, for example. If you love Neil Young and you love Bigsby's, you got to put a Les Paul, Bigsby in your 1970 Les Paul. What can be done? Well, once again, it goes back to that thing that it is your instrument. You can do with it what you want. Part of me, don't drill holes, and now there's the Vibramate, so you don't have to drill holes. But I've drilled holes on all sorts of things over the years. Now, I want to talk about another kind of modding, kind of hobbyist modding, the kind of the Gibson, the Chinese-made Gibson copies, or they make copies of any instrument. People would get these instruments and go like, this is almost as good as a Les Paul. I'm gonna put in pickups and controls and really make this thing as good as the Les Paul. And it's a bit of a challenge that people take on, but it's also a hope that you can get a Les Paul together for $600 and not $2,000. Most of these attempts fail. And if any out there have really modded the chips in to the point where where it's great, let me know, because they're all okay. Some of them are okay, the kind of the Tokais are kind of okay out of the box. There's a lot of copy guitars that are fine, but someone's like, and so I did the same thing. Once I had an Epiphone Les Paul, I didn't think I would be able to get a Gibson Les Paul. I play left-handed, so they're harder to find and they're expensive. So I put good pickups into a Epiphone Les Paul, and it didn't do it for me. I ended up selling it. So sometimes it's an empty pursuit, the pursuit of that. Now, other times people, the modding hobby, and for this I have my friend. Here's a 62 Jaguar that's been almost restored, other than, it came in rough shape to us. We put a new pick guard on it, and I'll talk about that a little more, but they cut the headstock. It was the 80s, probably, and everyone wanted to have pointy guitars. And these guitars, now, in the defense of the person who did this crime, these guitars in the 80s were a $300 guitar. No one wanted them. All of the shorter scale Fenders, all of the non-Strat Tele Fenders were just around, and they were cheap. And so no one thought they were destroying something that was worth thousands of dollars when they did this. I hope. I also kind of hope that it had broken or something happened, and they just did this to kind of neaten up a bad piece of damage or something. To do this, they took the logo off, and they resprayed the front side of the. Other than that, this is a beautiful feeling neck with the original frets in it, clay dots. I love these old Fender necks. They have a feeling to them that even the reissues don't quite get. They stripped the body. This is pretty common. Stripping and repainting is another kind of modding. They'd stripped the body on this, generally because a lot of these guitars were sunburst, and sunbursts were out in the, this was the punk era kind of thing. This was the new wave era. Solid colors were in, sunbursts were for your dad. So a lot of sunburst instruments are stripped and repainted or just painted over. Also, that kind of fits in the category, this is your instrument, do with it what you will, which is also a controversial way to think of that. But so someone strips the body, and this also this idea of like natural, wow, there's natural wood under here. I want to have that natural wood look. Before you strip a guitar, don't, but just get the one in the color that you want. This also goes back to something where guitars were hard to find. We had Vivian Campbell came by the shop one time with his original Les Paul, the one he played on the Dio records, and he has to this day. And he gave me a little tour of it, and that was great. And he said that it was originally had mini humbuckers. And he was trying to get a Les Paul. He was living in Northern Ireland, I believe. He tried to get a Les Paul. He just couldn't get one. In Europe, it was just hard to get these instruments. He wanted to be black, and he wanted humbuckers. So the guy took, the shop owner, I think, or routed it for humbuckers, painted it black, and delivered it to him. And it's been his guitar ever since. And you can't argue with his track record of success in rock guitar. So in that case, the mod was necessary because this was, you got to remember, the pre-internet world, and the ocean was a very big ocean, and American guitars were hard to find in Europe. And so that's another reason for modding. So what does modding do to the value of guitar? It always brings it down. No matter what the mod is, be prepared to take a price cut. Even if it's like, I put these 52 Strat pickups into a 52 Strat. I put these 62 Strat pickups into a, a made in Japan reissue. It's not going to increase the value of the guitar. Seldom do mods ever increase the value of anything. And then we have that thing where someone comes in. I've spent $600 on this guitar, and so it's worth $600 more. No, you did a favor for the next owner, but there's no people don't look at instruments and go like, oh, I want something that someone put a bunch of money into, or like when you're talking about modding anything like cars or houses. You got to do it for yourself and expect that you'll take a price hit. So that's my modding talk. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Subscribe and like and all that stuff that they always say here on YouTube. Lots of other videos here. Check them out, and we'll see you soon.